Right, good morning again for those of you who I didn't say hi to earlier, and it's a pleasure to be at this Investor Day. As Francis said, the last time I did this was literally 5 years ago, and it's not because we haven't wanted to, but COVID certainly didn't allow us to do that. So I find talking about Belron and talking about our business in 45 minutes to be an impossible task. So I'm going to try very hard, and I'm very much looking forward to both sharing the Belron story, but also having some time at the end to answer any questions, and I'm sure a lot of you have got a lot of questions. So just to remind you, Humphrey, who's our CFO, and I are going to be doing the presentation today. Humphrey will introduce himself in a little while. As you can see on the slide, I've been with Belron for 32 years, 21 of those as CEO. Previous to that, I ran our UK business, I ran our European business. But actually, the truth is, I've actually been in this business all of my life. I've only been paid for the last 32 years, but actually my grandfather started the business more than 100 years ago. My father was the CEO for many, many years. I grew up as a child being part of this business, working in the business. And so it very much is in my blood, but more importantly, it's in my heart. It's a business that is very, very close to me. So let me tell you what we want to talk about today. I think I'm going to try and talk really about who we are, what we do, and our positioning in the marketplace. Some of you will know that pretty well, but we'll go through that fairly quickly. Humphrey will talk about our performance, ambition, and our current performance. And then I'll just summarize at the end, and hopefully can show you some nice videos similarly to what we heard from the Moleskine team. So that's the agenda today. So let me start out with talking about Belron and who we are and what we do. So as Francis said at the beginning, we're the number one VGRRR business in the world. So we talk about vehicle glass repair, replacement, and now increasingly recalibration. Just a few things that I want to focus on. We did nearly 12.5 million jobs last year. I'm going to explain a little bit more on the next slide exactly where those came from. We have nearly 30,000 incredible members of staff around the world. And the thing that I'm incredibly proud of is our Net Promoter Score, which is our measurement of customer satisfaction. I would challenge any of you to find a company that operates in as many countries as we do, multi-site, that is doing work on a daily basis, that is consistently maintained an NPS score above 80% now for probably 5 or 6 years. And I'm going to explain in a little while why that is so important. It's not just about putting it up on a presentation. Our NPS score and our focus on customers is a key part of what makes Belron tick. We're currently in about 37 countries. You can see there, North America is our biggest region, with obviously the US being the biggest part of that. And for those of you who are not from continental Europe, where I hope you know our car glass brand, we have a number of other brands. So in the US, it's Safelite. If you come from Australia, it's O'Brien, Smith & Smith in New Zealand. And in Canada, we have both an English-speaking brand, Speedy, and a French-speaking brand, which is LeBeau. And then in the UK, I know there are some people from the UK, the brand is Autoglass. So what do we do? Well, there's sort of 3 key parts of our business. The first one is what we would call our VGRR services, and that's replacing or repairing car glass, glass that's in cars. So replacing is fairly straightforward. If you crack your windscreen, or if you have the side glass broken or the back glass broken, we would replace that. We also repair, which means we don't actually replace the full windscreen. If the chip is small enough, we are able to repair that through our patented glass medic technology. And that is really the biggest part of our business. You can see from the presentation that 84% of our business currently is coming from this area. The big growth area is recalibration. We talked about that a little bit earlier. Currently 8% of our business, but growing significantly. Many people ask, are we a branch business or a mobile business? Well, you can see it's about half and half, but it's becoming more branch-based. And the reason it's becoming more branch-based is because of what you saw outside. We need to be able to do these recalibrations in our branches. There are still countries like the US, the UK, Australia, which are still more than 50% mobile. But as time goes on, I expect that will change. And then in terms of who are our customers, if you like, predominantly the insurance industry is our major B2B customer. We also do a lot of commercial work. By commercial, I mean things like lease companies, fleet companies, car rental companies. And then there's a small element of cash as well. By cash, I mean somebody comes in, they're not insured, they have to pay for the job themselves. But the insurance sector is obviously the key sector for us. On the top right-hand side, you will also see something that we're talking a lot more about now, which is called VAPS, which is our value-added products and services. And that is when we sell or when we do a job, there are huge opportunities for us to sell things like the obvious thing, which makes up the bulk of our business, is windscreen wipers. So obviously when you're having your windscreen changed, you should have your wipers changed. But this is an exciting opportunity for us to be able to sell a product or a service at the time that we do the job. And because of the way that Belron do this, it actually gives us even higher customer satisfaction scores when we sell a windscreen. And the reason for that is people feel like, which is what we are doing, is that we're taking care of them, that we're thinking about not only replacing their windscreen, but actually looking after them as we move forward. So this is something you can see we call it an attachment rate, 21, which means that 21% of all jobs that we do, we are able to sell a windscreen wiper or a glass cleaner or an air filter or a variety of different products as well. There's some markets, like Spain, which have an attachment rate of nearly 50%. So there's a big opportunity for us in this area as well. I want to spend a little bit of time on this, but not too much, because this really in one page captures what Belron is about. And we start out in the middle of this diagram with our purpose. What Belron people like to do when they come to work in the morning is they want to make a difference. They want to put a smile on someone's face. We've got to remember that nobody wakes up in the morning thinking, I'm really excited, I'm going to go and buy myself a new windscreen. This is something that happens to you very seldom. I've personally had one windscreen replaced in my life, and I'm only 25 years old. It happens very infrequently, and when it happens, most people don't know what to do because it's a distress purchase. And so actually what Belron people want to do is we want to solve your problem. We want to make a difference. We want to take something that actually is really difficult, really irritating, and put a smile on your face. And that's why the purpose of Belron is actually about making that difference. And what's even more important than making a difference is the way we do that. And that's with care. And if you have the opportunity of having an experience with us, you will see that from the minute that you contact us to the minute that we say goodbye, our people are trying to make sure that you are taken care of because of the situation that you found yourself in. So very much our purpose is around making a difference with real care. Everything that Belron does is done through 4 lenses. We think of things in every part of our business through the customer's eyes, through our people's eyes, through society's eyes, as well as through our shareholders or our financial thing. And we'll talk more about that. Humphrey's going to give a little bit more detail about that. But Belron is a business that is totally focused on customers and on people to begin with. We also feel that we have an obligation as an employer, as a business to society, and we believe that if we get those things right, we will get the right returns for our shareholders from a financial point of view. So that's the way we look at it from the beginning. What is our mission, if you like? We want to be the natural choice in VGRRR. What do we mean by the natural choice? If I say to you, where do you go to do a search? Most of you will say Google. What I want Belron to be is, if you break your glass, if you need your glass fixed, there is only one place to go, and that's the Belron brand, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. Around the entire organization is this idea of the spirit of Belron, our culture, our values, the way we do business responsibly. ESG is a new term. In Belron, this has been part of us forever. My grandfather started this idea of behaving responsibly as a business. And the ESG agenda has been helpful for us because it's just accelerated something that we've done forever. It's put a much more professional way around it, and it's something that I'll talk about in a little while. And then clearly, none of this can happen without a great leadership team. We're a people organization, 30,000 people. And actually, if we don't have inspiring leaders at every part of our organization, none of this is going to work either. So this is a diagram that we use, frankly, internally within our organization, but it quite neatly captures what it is about Belron that makes us quite special. I talked about the natural choice, and this is, I think, gets to the core of what the Belron commercial strategy is. We call it a pull and push strategy. On the left-hand side is the pull, which is the brand. We invest heavily in all of our brands, and I'm hoping that everybody in this room has at some time heard our ad, seen our ad, hopefully even knows the jingle. Our ads, as I'm going to show you at the end, are very similar across the world, and those ads are all about creating awareness for what happens on that day that you break your glass. Where are you going to go? So that's what we call our pull, pulling consumers to us. On the other side of the diagram is the push strategy, which is the relationships with our insurance companies and key big lease fleet companies. And this means that we have to go to those people and really prove that we are a worthy partner for them to recommend to their policyholders to come to us. So you've got these two ways of getting to Belron. The one is come to us directly through the brand, but if you don't want to do that, go to your insurance company, and we would hope then that the insurance company would recommend us to you. But you know, those two things are not enough, because you can do that, and many of our competitors try both of those things. But actually, where this all comes together is the moment of truth, which is the service, the customer service that we provide. Now, we try to give you a little bit of a flavor over there, but the service is a complex one. It's about getting the car in. It's about making sure that we have the right piece of glass, that we have the properly skilled technician, that we do the job in the right time, that we don't inconvenience you, that we get, and that whole experience has to be fantastic. And it's that where we measure our NPS score. And that's why this is so important, that we deliver a brilliant service. And that, I think, in a diagram really captures our, if you like, our commercial strategy, and that's how we become the natural choice. We have to have the brand, we have to have the relationship with the insurance company, and we have to have the brilliant service that we're able to provide. So let me try and take that in a little bit step by step. So first of all, the first step is you have to contact us. And we are investing millions at the moment, and have done over the years, to make sure that when you contact us through whatever channel, whether it's on the phone, whether it's through your whether it's on your phone, on your device, whether it's on your laptop, that you get a seamless digital and personal experience. So we're available 24/7, 365 days during the year. The second thing that we have to do is we have to determine where the job needs to be done. Is it in a branch or is it mobile? That means we've got to have things like scheduling systems. We've got to have routing systems. We've got to be able to know exactly where our vehicles are, where our technicians are. Quite a complicated thing, all done in our back office. We then have to have brilliant, brilliant technicians. You met, hopefully, Stefan and Olivier. Both of them are ex-technicians. They're now both trainers. But we have the best technicians in the world. And we, as I mentioned outside, we train them in the Belron way of fitting. The beauty of our business is that a VW Golf windscreen in Auckland, New Zealand, is exactly the same windscreen. It looks exactly the same in Stockholm, in Sweden. And the way that we fit it, the way that we remove it out of the car, and the way that we put it back into the car, the steps that we need to take, the tools that we use, the polyurethane that we use, is identical. And we are very strict about that, and I'm going to tell you how we actually monitor that on an ongoing basis. But all of our Belron technicians are trained in the Belron way of fitting. We have the digital ability so that if someone anywhere in the world, one of our technicians, doesn't know, does this clip go over here or over there, we have a database that they can look up and see where that is. So very important part of the Belron story. And then what we also know is the positive experience, the great NPS score, makes sure that customers talk about us, customers tell their friends about us. You know, a distressed purchase, we know this. You typically don't know what to do. So often what you do is you ask your family or your friends, I've broken my windscreen, where can you tell us? So people talking about us is really important, both personally, online, etc. So NPS drives that as well. I don't want to talk a lot about this because, there's a lot of stuff here with the insurance companies. So what is our positioning with insurance companies? I mean, essentially what we're going to them is we're saying, we are able to manage your claims cost. We can do that with transparency, and we are unique in the way that we are able to do that. Some of the advantages to an insurance company is that there are no fraudulent claims. I can tell you that when I started in this business and when we started out in France, we did a survey we went around all the French insurance companies and we asked them, how much glass do you replace per annum? How many vehicles of glass did you replace last year? When we added all of that up, it turned out that according to the insurance industry, they had replaced every single windscreen in France in the year. Why? Because there was massive fraud going on. So you used to go into your little local garage, you used to want your brakes fixed or your tire fitted. Because windscreens are insured, the invoice said windscreen insurance. We eliminate fraud overnight if an insurance company deals with us, because that's all we do. It's a really important part of our message. But we don't only do that. We are able to repair first. When I talk about repair first, I talked about the little chip on the windscreen. We inject the resin into that. That saves the insurance companies. A repair, on average, is about a quarter of the cost, 25% of the cost of a replacement. Not only that, it's fantastic for the environment. We're not taking the glass out and using all the energy, etc. So this is a huge point for insurance companies. I'm proud to tell you that Belron has the highest repair rates of anyone in the world with our insurance partners. And this builds huge amount of trust. Because when we first started doing repair, people used to say to me, this must be commercial suicide. You're swapping what was a replacement now for a repair. Our view was we are here for the long term. If the insurance companies trust us, they will give us more work. And that's exactly what has happened. We also are able, as you can see here, to do a whole lot of other things with our insurance partners. You know, the products and services that we do are to the highest standard. They're worried about their policy holders. We're able to provide service right across the world. We have huge investment in branches. We have huge investment in vans, 18,000 technicians, as I was talking about earlier. And we're able to do this with advanced technology as well. So many of our insurance partners partner with us from a technology point of view as well. We share our expertise. So if you go onto an insurance website and you go into their glass portal, it'll be really, we will have white labeled that. So that's a very important part of our positioning as well. And then I guess for us, the real big deal here with insurance companies, and we have evidence, we've done research to prove this. If a policyholder has a good claims experience, this is true, forget about glass. If a policyholder has a good claims experience, they have a significantly higher propensity to renew their policy. Now, insurance companies spend billions on advertising to try and get people to renew or to come to them. We say, and we've shown them, that if they deal with us and their policyholder has a good experience, the chances of them renewing are significantly higher. And so this is a very big part of how we talk to the insurance industry as well. I want to talk a little bit about our purpose and why that's so important to us. I've talked about, the fact that we are a purpose-driven business, that leadership and the way that we manage our people is critical. Why is it critical? If our people are not engaged, it is not possible for them to deliver a brilliant service. And so the two things are very, very much linked. We have to have the best possible people in our organization, because at the end of the day, it is them that are sometimes going at 2 o'clock in the morning to fix a piece of glass or a car that has been broken into. That's our brand. It's not me standing up here. Our brand is Stefan and Olivier, who are doing the work. And so that means that we spend a huge amount of time on our culture, on our values, on engaging with our people. And we have this hugely important focus on our people. Now, I want to talk a little bit about that, because this is something I'm very proud of. So we've just literally last week done our latest. In the same way as we measure customer service through NPS, we also measure people engagement. And Towers Willis Watson do a people engagement survey. These are the results that came out last week. 86% of our 30,000 people are engaged. Now, again, I would challenge you to find many companies that have that level of engagement. And before you think, well, how many people responded to the survey, I can tell you that the survey response was 83%. So 83% of our people responded to the survey. Again, I don't put this up like NPS because I like to boast about the numbers. This is key to our success. If we haven't got this engagement, we will not be able to get the high NPS scores that we do. And so we do lots of things with our people. One of the things we do is we do a Belron Exceptional People Awards. This is where we identify and recognize our people, the most exceptional people. We've just finished doing that. This year we recognized 95 people from, I think, 29 different countries. I personally hand over a prize to them. We celebrate them. We give them, real spotlight. But there's more stuff that we do. Coming up next month, almost 6 weeks' time, we have our Best of Belron competition. Now, our Best of Belron competition is my favorite 2 days in my business career, because this is where we recognize our technicians. So this is a competition that we hold for all of our technicians worldwide to find the best technician in Belron, and in my opinion, therefore, the best technician in the world. The way we do that is we have national competitions. So every country will elect their best of Belgian technician or best of Netherlands or best of Germany, and they will send their best technician, in this case to Barcelona, to the Technician Olympics, if you like. And we will have in Barcelona in 6 weeks' time, we will have nearly 2,000 people there, including all of our customers from around the world. Not all of our customers, many of our insurance customers. We will have our people, and they do a 2-day competition. I'm sorry you can't see the diagram very carefully, but that's what it looks like. It's like an Olympics, and we then crown the winner the Best of Belron champion. The winner, by the way, gets 1 year's salary as a prize. So it's a huge thing. Why do we do this? We do this because we want to recognize the heroes of our business in a way that you're not able to do. These guys are doing the work where nobody is looking. They're doing it in branches. They're doing it on the side of the street. This is our opportunity to do that. This creates something really special. But even more than that, we can see the Belron way of fitting. And so if you were at this competition and the flags were taken away, there would be no way that you could tell who was from which country, because the way that they do it, the way that they judged is all exactly the same. So that's one thing that we do. And I'm loath to say that I'd like to invite you. I would like to invite many of you, but we've got a lot of people coming. So maybe some of you can come along to join us. Another thing that we do, which is about giving back to society, is what we call our Spirit of Belron Challenge. That'll be done in September this year. This is a way of engaging again with our people to do some exercise, to do some triathlon or a half marathon or a relay. And we do this to raise money for a charity that we support in South Africa. South Africa is our root. That's where the business was started. And this year, or last year, we had to do it virtually. We had 7,500 people competing from around 26 countries around the world. We raised nearly 2.5 million euros for this charity. Again, if you come to this event, and we're going to have the event in the UK this year, we get about 1,500 people. We're going to have another, hopefully, 8,000 people online. You will feel the spirit of Belron. Belron people doing something for other people, taking care. And then finally, we have a very unique foundation as well, which is named in honor of my father. It's a foundation that was actually set up by us, by the leadership of Belron. It's not financed by the company. It is funded solely by the senior leadership of Belron. And over the years, we have given away millions to hundreds, literally hundreds of charities around the world. And anybody in Belron can apply to support a charity, and we obviously prefer those charities that they are personally involved in. And as you can imagine, our people are involved in all sorts of things. And they love the fact that their company will stand alongside them, support them, and we do this. So we've done this and given millions away over the years. Carrying on ESG, we do all the normal things. We are signatory to the UN Global Compact. We are very strong on EcoVadis. In fact, Belgium, where we are now, we are a platinum holder, which puts us in the top, 1% of Belgian companies. We have 11 of our business units which are gold, which means that we're in the top 5%. And it's important this when we're talking to insurance companies. So many insurance companies are insisting now on ESG credentials, being part of this EcoVadis thing. But we're moving that even further. Our glass recycling, we're up to 72%. Well, we're even more. Last month, we were above 80 for the first time. We will get to 100% in time as well. I've talked about our giving back. That's how much money we've given over the years, and we will be giving probably 2 or 3 million every year to worthy charities as well. And we have a huge focus on our CO2 emissions, whether that's around waste, whether that's around route optimization, eco-driving, how we're thinking about all of that. That is a key focus for Belron right now, and a renewed focus as well. And in fact, we don't call it ESG, because I forget what it even stands for, ESG. We talk about doing business responsibly, or responsible business. But this covers the entire ESG agenda. So on the one hand, it's around the sustainability of our products and services. So this is all about our recycling, about driving down emissions, whether that's putting in, solar panels in our branches, clean energy, etc. Sustainable procurement. We are doing now hundreds of audits with our suppliers as well. This is a key part of our sustainability drive. And in addition to that, we also are investing in our people. So the diversity, equity, and inclusion initiative is a huge part of what we're doing. The giving back, safety is all part of that responsible business. And all of this is underpinned, obviously, by very strong governance, by leadership that is totally committed to what we're doing in this area. Our values really lend ourselves to all of this, and very strong now reporting and measurement. And certainly we are totally aligned with the Dieterin Group in terms of their reporting, and you will see that. I mean, I think even in the latest annual report, you'll see a number of these measures. But we've got still got a long way to go. But this is not an initiative in Belron. The responsible business, as I described on that diagram, is a lens through which we look at everything. It is part of us. It's not a project. All of us are part of the responsible business agenda within Belron. Just very quickly on my team, and the only reason I wanted to show you is that not everybody's as old as me, and not everyone's been in this business for a long time. I'm very proud of my team. I've only got one of them here today, but we've got a really, really good mix in the team of experience, people who've been in our business for a long time, as well as some newer faces. Humphrey's relatively new. Susan, our Chief People Officer, has only been with us for less than 3 years. Phil Pavitt, our CIO as well. And very proud that Renee Cachillo, who's our new CEO of our biggest business, SafeFlight in the United States, she took over in March. She had been with Belron. She'd been with SafeFlight for 10 years, but she's just been promoted as CEO and is doing an amazing job. So let me move on to our positioning in the market. So again, our track record is pretty good. This is the size of the segment. People often are interested in how big is this market. We believe last year it was about 8.8 billion in sales. You know what our share is, and you can work that out. The drivers of our market, a lot of different things. Miles driven, obviously, you can't break your windscreen unless you're driving the car. The perfect scenario for me is you're driving along, the weather is freezing, there's lots of stones on the road, and up they come and break the windscreen. That's what we love. We love the heat as well, by the way. We love the summer, because in the summer, your car's sitting outside, it's boiling hot on the windscreen, you get in the car, you turn on the air conditioning, and if you've got a small chip in your windscreen and you haven't repaired it, it will crack, and we will come and replace it. So miles driven is important. The breakage rate, which is driven by weather, but it's also driven by road conditions. And also, it depends on whether you want to fix it. Many people drive around with the damage on their cars, so that depends. But that's about the number of jobs. The more interesting thing, I think, is what is happening to the value of those jobs. And as you can imagine, this is a key part of our business. And the truth is the average job price of a windscreen is growing. And that's not because we're putting the prices up. It's because of the complexity of the windscreens. It's because of recalibration. It's because of the ability, it's because of how big the pieces of glass are getting. I'm going to show you some pictures. But it's also about labor. It's about how much time we're spending, how much we're spending both in time and cost. And obviously, it's also about our negotiating skills with insurance companies as well, because they do have a choice, and it's about relationships, it's about building trust, etc. I just wanted to give you an idea of this, because this is the big thing that's, we talk about the tailwinds in Belron, the drivers of our growth. This is a very big part of this. This is what a windscreen would have looked like in the 1990s. By the way, this could have been a Mercedes, well, I would not use Mercedes, an Audi. This could have been an Audi A4, windscreen. It was a fairly standard thing. But the way that it's developed, for example, into the 2020 windscreen, We talked about some of these things. Pretty much every windscreen, you know that, you all drive cars, all have a rain sensor. So when the rain comes, now where is that rain sensor? Well, it's embedded into the windscreen. The solar glass, so that you're protected from the sun. Well, that's putting the prices up. The ADAS bracket, we saw that, where the camera is being held. The fact that it's heated, so that you can heat up, when it gets very frosty, you can heat up the windscreen. All of these things, acoustic is a huge part of that. So the windscreen or the glass in the car operates as an acoustic barrier. That's why cars are so much quieter than they were before. All of these things, it's exactly the same car. It's the Audi, it's still the Audi. But look how much more technology there is in the windscreen itself. And where's that heading? Well, the great news is it's just going to become more complicated. So there's really interesting things coming up now, particularly things like heads-up display. So do you know what a heads-up display is? So that all the information that you want will be actually projected now onto the windscreen when you're driving. But you can imagine if the windscreen cracks or breaks, we're going to have to replace it. We're going to have to recalibrate not only the cameras and stuff, but also the heads-up displays. So I think my message here is that technology is driving complexity in a good way. It means cars are becoming safer, cars are becoming better, but that's good news for us. And it plays, if you like, to all of our strengths as a really professional business. And the insurance companies love this. ADAS, we talked about. This is all this technology. I'm not going to go through this slide in great detail, but I think the thing to pay attention to is the right-hand side, which is this penetration. I talked earlier that currently you can see our penetration of these, what we see is 24%. But there's the trend lines. Every car is going to have ADAS equipment in it, every single car. And therefore, I don't know, in 2030 or 2040, it won't be 24%, it'll be 80 or 90 and eventually 100%. And that means that we have a long trajectory of this type of growth. In terms of lots of people like to ask about our global reach. I talked to you, we're in 37 countries. We have a mixture of corporate and of licensees or franchisees. Obviously, the big bulk of that is corporate, and we operate in obviously all the big Western economies from a corporate point of view. But we have many franchisees as well, and very good franchisees in Eastern Europe, in Mexico, in Chile, as you can see, South Africa, North Africa. And this is an area that offers, again, huge opportunities for us in the future. We're the market leaders, which I think is the most important thing of all, in our top 10 countries. You can see there, those are our top 10 countries by size, and we are the market leader in every single one of those. So I'm going to pause now, and I'm going to hand over to Humphrey to share some of our performance. I will come back and take any questions. I'm sure you've got some questions on what I've said, so I'll be back.
Thanks, Gary. As usual, he's taken up more than his share of the time. Never mind. I just wanted to share with you what all of that's kind of added up to in terms of the numbers. I know this audience will be particularly focused on that. So we're very proud of a really remarkable track record of growth. That's been driven by that complexity dynamic that you heard Gary just talk about, and what that's driven in sales growth. It's also because we've gained share. So we've pretty consistently in all our markets gained share over those years. We've also, in that long time period, done quite a bit of geographic expansion. So Safelite was acquired 2007, if I remember rightly. And so M&A has played a reasonable part in that growth, but it is quite a spectacular track record of growth. Only broken when I arrived with COVID, but as you can see, we bounced back quite spectacularly from that position. So we're very proud of that track record. Just to give you a bit more detail around the acquisitions, we pretty consistently buy typically quite small businesses. So in the US, we are vastly bigger than any of our competitors. So what's left is principally mom and pop stores. We bought the number 2 player, True Road, back in 2019. So they were the number 2 player, and they turned over, I don't know, 120, 130 million dollars, and we were a couple of billion in the US at that stage. So that just gives you a sense of the scale differential between us and the others, particularly in the US. But there are opportunities, you can see there, to buy businesses around the world. To be honest, the constraint now is partly regulatory, in the sense that we have decent market shares, and that doesn't always allow us actually to acquire players. That has led to a really outstanding performance over the last number of years. So we've gone back to 2017, so to compare to when we were last with this particular audience, you can see that sales in that period have grown CAGR of 7.5%. That's 30% bigger from back to 2017. We're 2.2 times our adjusted EBITDA, so we're up to over $1 billion now in terms of EBITDA at a margin of 24%. We've over quadrupled the EBIT, so we're now up to 19%, 880 million. And we've gone 6 times, can't even remember what the word for that is, 6.3 times the amount of trading cash flow. So that is our underlying EBITDA less any changes in working capital and CapEx, so 6.3 times, converting at 79%. So this is a strongly cash generative business. And you can see that we've returned a very, very substantial amount of money to our shareholders over those years, so a cumulative 3 billion. That means our leverage has come down and is, as at the end of last year, at 3.2 times. So in my 30-something years of doing this type of work, I don't think I've ever had quite such a spectacular set of numbers to present to an audience. How do we do that? I think this is important. It comes back to what Gary talked about earlier. We always talk about these 4 quadrants, and we know if we take care of customers and our people, and we do it in the right way in the societies in which we operate, then the financial rewards will come. And that, I think, is what we've demonstrated consistently over many years, but perhaps particularly in the last number of years. So I won't repeat what Gary talked about, but it starts with customers, delighting our customers. Sometimes in difficult circumstances. I was riding with a technician last Friday, actually, in the UK, and the first job we had to do was a warranty job, and we don't always have all the parts we need, particularly in these quite challenging supply chain environments. And the way that Stefano, dealt with the customer, calmed them down, apologised, just did it in the right way, turned what could have been a difficult situation into a positive one. And for me, that was a real example in real life very recently of how our technicians do such an outstanding job. It means that we've also, with customers, got penetration rates of recalibration rising, and I won't go over the ground that Gary already covered, but that's a really important tailwind for us that's just going to keep going. We have an attached rate on VAP, so this is selling the wipers principally, but other products as well, which continue to increase year by year. And with the right kind of management focus, we know we can do an even better job. We've got examples in Spain and in France where the attach rates are much higher than the global average, and opportunities actually in the US in particular to attach at a better rate. And we know we can do it because we're doing it in Spain and France, and we know if we apply those best practices, then we will get to the higher levels of attach elsewhere. So record levels of customer satisfaction. We've got consistently extremely high levels of employee engagement. So again, the numbers that Gary talked about earlier. I think it all came together and was demonstrated for me in my first year through the COVID crisis, the way that everybody pulled together. I guess those extraordinary events can either blow you apart or they can bring you together. And it felt to me, as a new person in the organisation, extraordinary how everybody really came together. And we did a very special thing recently where we made pretty much every single employee, so all 30,000, gave them the opportunity to be a shareholder in the company, really as a recognition of a thank you for everything that we'd been through over the previous few years. So we now have gifted shares to our employees, so they are all now shareholders in the company to enjoy the success that we're really confident we can deliver going forward. Society is a huge focus for Belron. You've heard of the events that we run, the amounts of money, which is just extraordinary, that individuals in the company are generating. This is not, company funded. giving. This is actually employees doing this and raising money from their friends and their family and doing the events that you've heard about already. And that has resulted in, as I say, truly spectacular results where with the levels of EBITDA, the margins we're getting and the cash that we're throwing off the business. We're not satisfied though. One of the things you might have caught on the charts earlier amongst the values that we focus on is drive. And we're very driven to keep going. And we think there's a huge opportunity to do that. We're very clear on what the drivers of our performance are. You can see on the left-hand side of the chart there. At the heart of it is the VGRR job, where that complexity means we are driving value every year as those cars get more complicated, the windshields get bigger, and the stuff that's in them gets more and more complicated. And that's the core driver of the business. On top of that, we've now got recalibration, and we're hopeful there might be other similar things with heads-up display that enables us to find new pools of profit going forward. We have the VAPS opportunity, as I described. You know, we're doing a good job, but there's just tons more we can do in that area. And we think there will continue to be a stream of smaller M&A in many of our markets, particularly the US, that we can keep adding into the model that we run. Now, on top of that, I think an area that's probably of more focus of late than it perhaps had been in the past, and we see real opportunities, is around working together to transform the business, particularly focused on, we'll really focus on all areas of the business, but around the operation that we give to our customers and also what we do behind the scenes, and continuing opportunities around productivity and procurement. So we've got a lot of cost efficiency items that we're now very focused on too. And just to dive into that transformation agenda, it's a busy old chart, that one, but really trying to explain that everything we do, we are now looking at in terms of modernizing the technology, making the processes more joined up and seamless, ultimately making it easier for both customers and people to enjoy the experience with us. And we think there's real value in that. The context here is that we've historically run all of our 18 owned businesses, corporate businesses that Gary referred to earlier, very independently. So they've ended up with their own technology and their own ways of doing things locally, and we think there's a huge opportunity to do that in a more standardized, centralized, modern way, and we're busy doing that now. What that means is we think we've got a forward-looking agenda which is really very positive. We think we've got strong foundations. We think that we've got some real tailwinds that we've touched on today. We think we've got significant opportunities in areas which we have, more control over. We think there's a significant opportunity around cost efficiency. We think we can modernize the technology of the business materially. And the fantastic thing is there's nothing radically new in there. It's really about how we focus on delivering many of the things that we've already been doing. And we think that those opportunities go way beyond, a 5-year time horizon that we've kind of focused on in the numbers today, but really well beyond that, with things like recalibration taking a number of years to really play through the system fully. So we think it's within our control to deliver that. It's really about the execution and making sure that we're really focused. What that will mean in terms of our ambitions numbers-wise for just looking out to 2025, we think we can carry on as we have been with high single-digit compound annual growth rate on the top line. We think we can further improve the adjusted EBIT margins up to greater than 23% of sales. We will continue to be very careful about how we spend our CapEx in the range, excluding lease payments, so if you like, real CapEx, at 1 to 1.5% of sales. We think we can convert to cash at greater than 85%. And we think we can deliver a free cash, at least based on today's interest rates, tax rates, and what have you, because this free cash number is after those items at greater than 850 million euros by 2025 in that year. In terms of how we allocate capital, we're committed to getting down to a trajectory of 3 times levered. You can see we're already quite close to that. And we will, we think, deliver substantial returns to our shareholders based on that deleveraging profile, and would expect to pay dividends and recap as we have done historically. I think with that, I will hand back to, oh, sorry, current trading. Don't forget current trading. So I think we've had a good start to the year. It's been strong growth in VGRR jobs, combined with continuing growth in AJP, increasing recalibration, penetration, and VAPS contribution. So it begins to be quite repetitive, the story that we're telling, and I'm glad about that, because that means, we're clear on what we're doing, and it's driving the performance every day, every week. So we've reported sales growth of 18.4% in the first quarter, actually 21.1% on continuing operations. We do still see within that number some continuing challenges. So if you like, the good news is that number is still somewhat affected by COVID. Comes and goes. It's not anywhere near as big as it was historically, of course, but there is still an impact, we think, both in terms of the market, so consumers being affected by varying degrees of lockdown, but also continuing on the supply chain and the labour market. So we do see some of those pressures, as I say, much more manageable than they have been historically. We are very focused on this new world that we now appear to be in, a very inflationary environment, and it's super important that we are very focused on delivering price increases at a significantly higher level in that environment, and we will do that. We are doing that. And I think now I genuinely are heading back to Gary.
Great. Thanks, So just a couple more slides, and then we'll take some questions. So look, hopefully we've given you a quick run through with Belron, where we've come from, what we're doing, what our position is, and clearly the performance of this business has been pretty good. Humphrey went through all of that. So what I'd like to leave you with really are the following takeaways, and I think we've covered all of these things. So, the fact that we're the global leader, I think, is an important thing. It gives us the opportunity to not only leverage our scale, but more importantly, to leverage our competencies. The way that we are able to share across the world the right things, best practice, is a key part of the success of Belron, and that will continue to strengthen. We are in large markets, and the structural growth is there. It's clear. I mean, we can see that every day, and it makes sense. So the fact that we are in all the large markets of the world, I think, is a really big strength of ours. We talked about the branding, and I'm going to show you some examples of that in a minute. But this is an important part. Our brands, together with our insurer relationships, are a pretty unique combination that allows us to get and to continue growing our market share. I really believe this. The culture of Belron, the values, the best-in-class way that we do this is the key to our success. I often reflect, why is it that Belron is the size that we are, and that there isn't a competitor that even comes vaguely close to us? And it's not because we have the best glass or the best polyurethane or the best branches. I think it is about our people. I think it is about the way we organize ourselves, and it's the way that we have set ourselves up to be a pretty formidable organization because of our values, because of our culture. Recalibration, VAPS, and our Fit for Growth program, things that are in our control to a large extent, are a big part of performance going forward, and will definitely accelerate as we move forward into the next few years. And our financial profile, even if I think back 5 years, to see the progress that we've made, whether that's in our margins, our cash flow generation, our ability to control our capital expenditure, I think is a huge strength. And the fact that we are able to do that not only gives us firepower, it enables us to do acquisitions, it enables for us to invest in the areas that we need to invest. It's an important part of that growth story going forward as well. And then obviously I would say this, but I believe this very importantly. Humphrey mentioned that our challenge as management and as leadership is about execution. There's nothing fancy in the next few years about what Belron's going to be doing. We're just going to continue doing what we do even better. And every day I wake up, I know that there's more stuff to do even better. We never, ever get complacent. We never rest on our laurels. There are so many things that we can do in a better way right across our business. And the great thing is, if we carry on doing that, I think that, the kind of ambition that Humphrey put out is definitely achievable. And we're not, I like to say that it's taken us probably 30 or 40 years to become what some people think is an overnight sensation. These things don't happen. Our performance over the last few years has not just happened in the last 3 or 4 years. It has been built on foundations that were set tens, maybe even 100 years ago. And I think that's the biggest strength of Belron, is that our foundations, our heritage, our culture, that's the thing that's going to make sure that we continue the story as we move into the next few years. So a big thank you for listening. I'm going to take some questions. Before I do that, though, sorry. Sorry. Do you mind just going back? I just wanted to... Do you mind just going back to the first one? I just wanted to give you... They're just 30 seconds. That's all. They're 30 seconds each. Just to give you a flavor of our branding and our advertising. So the first ad that I'm going to show is about ADAS, about recalibration, and it's from our Australian business. I want you to watch out for a couple of things. One is the technician that we use, the people that you see are our people. We don't use actors. We design these ads. We've been doing this for now 25 years. We've got it down to a fine art. These ads work. I'm going to show you, firstly, the Australian one.
I'm Ed from O'Brien. Cracked you in screen? Don't wait. Go to o'brien.com.au. Enter a few details to book your replacement. It's so easy. And more customers are relying on tech like auto braking and lane detection. Our Caltech service is state-of-the-art. It recalibrates your vehicle's camera so you can still trust those safety features. We even provide a recalibration certificate for your peace of mind. Don't wait. Book today.
So there's always a jingle at the end. That's a bit unusual. You'll hear the similar ones in a minute. So this one is a French one.
Avec les changements de température, entre les gelées matinales et le chauffage, quand le pare-brise est déjà fragilisé par un impact, un nid de poule sans faire attention, crac.
Alors, en cas de fissure, venez chez Carglass.
Chez nous, votre pare-brise, on le remplace.
Et pour rouler avec votre nouveau pare-brise bien dégivré,
Carglass vous offre un dégivreur électrique sans fil. Et oui, gagnez du temps avec cette innovation Karcher.
alors prenez rendez-vous directement sur carglass.fr.
Et tapez bien .fr pour être sûr d'arriver chez nous.
Carglass répare, Carglass remplace.
So you've all heard that one. So that's a good example of VAPs, of using, and we always do it with a good brand, Karcher, as you heard over there. So that's one of our French ones. The next one is
Hallo,
German.
ich bin Hamid El Kadouri von Carglass. Wir suchen gerade in ganz Deutschland Monteurinnen und Monteure. Kann ich nur empfehlen. Ich habe hier alles gelernt, was man über Fahrzeugglas wissen muss. Und weil sich die Technik immer weiterentwickelt, lerne ich immer noch dazu. Neue Systeme, neue Werkzeuge und nette Leute. Und wenn meine Kunden zufrieden sind, bin ich das auch. Mach's wie ich. Bewerb dich jetzt als Servicemonteur auf carglass.de/karriere. Auch als Quereinsteiger.
Carglass repariert, Carglass tauscht aus.
Apologies, we did have some subtitles on there. That was an ad which is actually a recruitment ad. One of our issues right now around the world is recruiting people, and so we're using ads, similar kind of thing with our technician, the jingle at the end. It's been amazing, actually, to see how successful this has been. Not only to get people in to work for us, but actually to get more jobs as well. And that was a good example, which shows a bit of our diversity. You probably didn't notice, but we've got a woman technician there, and we've done that as well. So that I've got two more quick ones. This is our latest one in the US.
Does your
Safe
windshield
Light.
have a crack? Trust Safelite. This customer had auto glass damage, but he was busy working from home. So he scheduled with Safelite in just a few clicks. We came to his house. Then we got to work. We replaced his windshield and installed new wipers to protect his new glass. While he finished his meeting, let Safelite come to you.
Looks great. Thank you.
My pleasure. That's service on your time. Schedule now.
Safe Light Repair, Safe Light Replace.
So this is obviously responding to COVID, to lockdown, but also our digital offering. So you can do this on your phone. We come to you, etc. And then the final one is a Swedish ad, which I'm afraid is in Swedish. I'll just, but this is about recycling, and you'll get the picture here. But this is about how we we make sure that we're recycling and doing business responsibly.
Hej, Mattias på Carglass. Har vintern varit tuff mot din vindruta? Grus på vägarna, kalla nätter och full värme för att få bort isen från rutan. Byt ut din vindruta och möt sommaren med klar sikt. Hos Carglass kan du vara säker på att din gamla vindruta återvinns och blir till något nytt. Kanske den här flaskan en återvunnen vindruta från Carglass. Behöver din bil en ny vindruta? Gå in på carglass.se nu och boka din tid.
Carglass repair, Carglass replace.
Good. So I just wanted to give you a bit of a flavor. So as you can see, all of our ads have a theme. They're very similar. We monitor them. We track them. They give us a massive return on investment. So we don't see advertising, by the way. We see advertising as an investment. It's very simple. And if we have the technicians, if we're able to do the job, we will continue to advertise. I'm going to stop because, as I said, I could go on forever. We've got time still for questions, yeah, before lunch. Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hello. David Wagman from ING.
Oh, there you are.
Hello. Hi. First question on the, let's say, the value opportunity for Carglass for until 2025, but also beyond. Could you explain us what is your capacity to actually capture this value opportunity? I mean, in terms of basically gross margin, meaning that, I guess, so you've got this increase in the complexity of glass, and so this increase in price. How do you, let's say, negotiate that with insurance companies in the sense that you could have now some windscreen costing a multiple of what they used to cost, let's say, 10 years ago, but they could argue, for instance, that the service that you provide hasn't really changed. That's my first question.
Yeah, good. So it's a great question. So the good news is we don't have to negotiate with insurance companies if their mix of vehicles is changing. So to give you an example, so if you just insuring very small cars and then you decide to insure much bigger cars, the price is the price. All we do with insurance companies, we just negotiate annual inflation kind of things. But if the complexity of the windscreen is growing and the cost of the windscreen and the cost of the service is growing, insurance companies are paying that. And by the way, as you know, they're putting up their premiums as a result. So it's not, if you're in an accident today, in exactly the same car and you were in an accident 5 years ago, the cost of the repair is significantly higher. It's not because the body shops have increased their price. It's because the cost of the parts is different. It's because of the way that the time that it takes to fix it is different. Insurance companies understand that. We call that mix inflation. We don't call it price inflation. We don't even call it inflation. We just call it a mix effect. It's about the mix of vehicles that are becoming more complicated. So we don't see that as an issue at all, frankly. So insurance companies accept that. And the only negotiation we have with them is what is the sort of annual inflationary cost, so, energies and that kind of thing. And yes, that's a negotiation. But to answer your question directly, we feel very confident that we're able to capture that value.
Okay, thanks. And then on the maybe on the transformation plan, so D'Ieteren has come with some nice guidance, and I guess you gladly accepted that we should see an improvement in the EBIT margin by 2%, by 2025.
Yep.
Could you come back on this and give us a bit like the key drivers behind that 2%? There are some significant investment in the business, and more than 200 million euro of investment, which seems really quite steep, quite significant. I mean, on IT, etc. So, how confident are you on this transformation plan?
Yep.
Thank you.
So, I disagree that it's a lot of money. 200. I mean, we're a big business now. 5 billion in sales. We spend a lot of money. So it certainly is an investment, but if you look at our capex, for example, over the years, it has come down dramatically because partly because we are able now to use systems in a much better way and not having to go through that. But to answer the question, it's going to come partly from that, certainly, that we will become more efficient, we'll modernize our systems, we'll spend less on technology, we're using standard systems now. We have right now we have so many bespoke type systems. You know, we're going with Salesforce, with Workday, you know, just with standard kind of things. And so we see that there'll be definitely an improvement in that. We don't have to do things 18 times, as Humphrey was saying. There are opportunities to regionalize things, to globalize things. So there'll be some opportunities coming from that. But equally, there are opportunities coming from the stuff that the real core of the business. So VAPs, if we increase our attachment rate, we'll see an improvement in margin. Recalibration, definitely, we will see an improvement in margins, hopefully, as more of that comes, just because they're higher priced products. But also, remember, we're not just looking at growth on the top line. We're a business that focuses on our costs, that makes sure that we're being as efficient as we can, whether that's the way we build our branches, whether it's the way we advertise, whether it's the way we share practice, whether it's the way we negotiate with our suppliers. Remember, we are a huge buyer of things like glass, of polyurethane, of Bosch equipment. We have purchasing teams around the globe who are focused on making sure that we do that. So there's not one single answer to why our margin's going to improve. It's a whole lot of, you know, very important and many hundreds of initiatives that will make sure. And the last thing I would say is we've got a track record now. So I think you should be confident we can do that.
Thank you. And very last question from my side. Zooming, on 2022, there seems to be a very significant increase in CapEx, maybe working capital, I don't know, but you're guiding to flat free cash flow this year. So I'm just, and Dieter Rön has explained us that this was related to ADAS, quite a bit of replacement there, and then also expansion of the footprint. And then I wanted to better understand.
So I'll let Humphrey talk about the numbers, but in terms of expansion of the footprint, it's sort of what I was talking about earlier. As more ADAS, as more recalibration, you know, in the US 4 years ago, we were doing 95% mobile. We just can't do that. It's not because we don't want to. We just can't do that if we want to do recalibration, which means that we have to invest in branches, we have to invest in stores, but we also have to invest, because of our growth, in things like warehouses, distribution centers. All of that sort of thing takes some investment, and partly that's that. But I mean, if you want to comment on that.
The only other bit I'd add is that there's an element of catch-up. So we ran it very, very lean, certainly in 2020, but still actually in 21 with the crisis. In no way did we constrain, I don't think, at any stage what the businesses wanted to invest to do the right thing, but there just wasn't it wasn't the right moment to do that, and they were, we were all distracted with other things. So an element in what seems like a step change up is really just us getting back to normal. Then you combine that with the Bosch stuff you saw earlier, so there has definitely been, and there is, we're in it now, a wave of investment behind the recal technology. And then, as you say, branches, which is becoming a bigger share of the CapEx mix.
Okay, so the footprint is related to, let's say, more fixed repair.
Totally. It's 100% related to that.
Okay, so in the mix, let's say, of type of repair, mobile versus
exactly.
fixed.
So in the UK and the US, which are the two big mobile markets, you're seeing quite a marked switch away from mobile into in-store. And we're having to provide the footprint to do that, because so many more vehicles now require that static recalibration where you need a level floor and you need the right conditions. You can't do that on the roadside.
We took a decision in 2012 or 13 to go completely 100% mobile. We shut every branch in the UK. Well, it was a good idea at the time. We can't do that. So now we're rebuilding. So we have to open new branches. We have to do that. Now
Thank you very much.
I'm going to ask for some other questions.
Good morning. Chris Gibbons of Petercam. First question, and I quote you here. There is no competitor coming vaguely close to Belron. Yes. We've recently had the IPO in Scandinavia of Kerry Group. Yep. To what extent is this for you, let's say, a situation whereby consolidation will be an interesting driver, or is it also, from a competitive perspective, a risk for you?
First of all, I never take any competitor for granted. So any competitor, whether it's the smallest mom and pop to the bigger competitors, we take them very seriously. So, and in every market. When I say they virtually don't, I'm talking just in pure size. So the Kerry Group, I don't know what their sales are, 130 or 140 million. compared to us. So in terms of scale and size, the Kerry Group are a very professional organisation. I admire their business, particularly in Scandinavia and in Sweden. And to answer your question, of course, they're going to be competing with us. But the fact that they listed doesn't really make, they were competing with us before. We are competing all the time with all sorts of now private equity groups, private equity owned businesses in North America, across Europe. What can I tell you? This is our life. We've been. I mean, we compete every day of our life. That's the way we operate. We never take anyone for granted. Is it going to be more tough in the next few years? I don't think necessarily. I think it'll be as tough as it's always been. I don't know if that answers the question.
Well, yes or no, but okay, I understand. Second question, just if you look in a post-COVID world, and we've seen it now, I'm working at a bank, we were allowed to work at home 2 days a week and things like that. What do you think is the long-term risk on the volume impact on the total market? Probably different from market per market, but what's the impact on that?
I think it's just too soon to tell. But listen, it would be completely naive if I said that it's not going to have an impact if people on, we rely on people driving cars. And so if people are not going to be driving cars, but the behaviors have changed so much. So for example, during COVID, even during 21 and 20, lots of people didn't fly. And so so people were driving on holiday, even if they might not be driving to work. And we saw that, and that was actually good for us. It's hard to tell, we still don't know how many people are going to return to public transport, because that was also a big shift during this period, is that people moved away from public transport and used their cars. So, what's weighing up against each other? Overall, we still believe that our market is going to grow. And whether COVID happens, whether those COVID things last for a long time, we still think that there are opportunities for market growth.
Okay, and just a last question on the geographical footprint.
Yes.
We've got a very interesting North American situation. Europe is a bit scattered. Okay, fine, but you've got nice positions. What about the rest of the world? You've got more aggressive plans there on certain areas? Or
I wouldn't say we've got aggressive plans, but we've got passive plans. And passive plans means that we have a team full-time who are constantly focused on looking for new opportunities, new markets, new geographies. But we're not driven by putting flags on the map. It's just that is not interesting to us. We will go into a new market if it makes sense, if we can make a difference. And remember what I mean by make a difference. Make a difference for our people, for our customers, for shareholders and for society. And there will be some markets, I think, in the next few years that are going to become more interesting. Right now, we have all of these licensees and franchisees who are fantastic bit of research for us, because we have great relationships, and if we decide to buy one of those, that's easy to do. Asia's the obvious place to go, but the environment has to be right. We have to have insurance companies there who are operating in a way that we are used to. We have to have consumers, motorists who want to pay for a premium service. We never pretend that we're the cheapest. Our service is premium. We want to, and all of those factors we are looking at all the time, and we'll move when we need to, but we're not in a rush to do that. So it's not aggressive, it's passive is what I meant.
Thank you.
Hi, Patrick Vermeulen. First of all, congratulations on a fantastic track record.
Thank you.
I was just wondering about the changing environment. Are we coming out of a non-inflation environment? We're now in the middle of an inflation environment. Now, if I'm an insurance company,
yes,
and luckily I'm not, but if your prices are not going up and you're making more money, you're sort of, the insurance company probably can live with that. Now you're making 20% margins, and you're very public about it. With inflation coming, if I was the insurance company, I know what I would tell you. So what pricing power do you have to get away with increasing prices, given the margins you're already making?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have any pricing power, is the truth. Let's be very clear about this. The insurance companies, glass represents firstly 5% of their total claims cost, 5%. So let's not blow this out of proportion. So it's not like they're seeing this massive spike in their claims costs. They've got billions of claims costs, and glass is a small percentage. We don't have any pricing power. All we can do is go to insurance companies and so we're not different to anyone else. we're the same as any one of their other suppliers. We can explain to them how our labor rates are going up, how our glass prices are going up, how our energy prices are going up, and we can ask them to share that burden with us. By the way, they also have price power. They can put up their premiums, which they do. Well, they do. I mean, and if you want me to predict what's going to happen to insurance premiums, I promise you they'll be going up higher than the glass cost. So I think, so listen, it's a negotiation. It's a negotiation insurance company by insurance company, but we are firm. We don't believe that we should be subsidizing the insurance industry with costs that are beyond our control. And frankly, energy costs are beyond our control, labor costs are beyond our control. We can do all of these things that we're trying to do to improve efficiency, to pass that on. Again, we have a track record with insurance companies. It's not a surprise that every insurance company wants to work with us, wants to partner with us, wants to deal with us. We have so much more to bring than just the cost of glass. Technology is a great example of that. The ability to handle claims for them, the ability to take costs away from them, that they are using big call centers to do stuff that honestly we can do as well. So, we like to look at our relationships with insurance companies much more in a partnership way. And of course, there are going to be negotiations about price and about inflation, but I don't see that as a huge. Listen, again, you're right. There's more inflation, but negotiating with insurance companies is what we do every day of the year. Got two here.
Immanuel Khalid Kempen. My first question is on ADAS. So the ADAS margin is extremely high. We have discussed already profitability and competition, but don't you believe that in the long term that is the key risk, that the price for an ADAS job will come down substantially?
I don't know, and I don't agree that the ADAS margin is very high, because what depends how you define a margin. The way I define a margin is what investment have you put in and what continuing investment do you need to put in. So yes, you could say, well, you don't see the price, you don't see the cost of this equipment in our gross margin. Well, you don't, because it's been capitalized, because it's so expensive. But the cost of getting into ADAS and the cost of being able to do is significant. And therefore, I think that the price that we charge, and the price, by the way, that the industry charges, go and have a look at some of the OEM dealers and see what they charge for recalibration, if you want to really get an idea of high margins. So I don't think we are charging high margins, and I don't think that there's a risk of this. These windscreens are getting more and more complex. And honestly, as I was saying outside there, going to an insurance company, because what are we doing here? We're preventing the car having an accident by recalibrating properly. Not having an accident is firstly the cost of the accident, but more importantly is the personal injury claims. Someone gets injured. That's the real cost to insurance companies. Honestly, for 200 euros, this is cheap at the price, in my opinion. And so you see, sadly, I've been around for too long. We've never been the cheapest, never, ever in my life. We've always had competition. There's always somebody who can do it cheaper, and in the future there will always be somebody who can do it cheaper. I think insurance companies and motorists are not always looking for the cheapest. And so you've got to look at it in that context. We are responsible, we don't price gouge, we explain, we're transparent. All of those things are important for us with insurance companies. And for that reason, I think we feel very confident that we're not going to suddenly see someone coming, well, I don't know, listen, someone can come in tomorrow and say we're going to halve the price of Belron. I mean, that will have no impact on our business, in my opinion.
And then, is there a risk that an ADAS job can be done in the future in another way, i.e. automatically via machinery or something?
Yeah. So again, we have something called Belron Technical, which is a business unit within Belron, which does nothing else than monitor trends, make sure that we have the right equipment, make sure that we have the right tools to do this. Our view is, for as long as a windscreen is going to need to be replaced by a human being, you're going to have to recalibrate the windscreen. I just can't think of a scenario whereby that's not going to happen. So this idea that vehicles are going to become self-calibrating is a very difficult, because what happens if the windscreen isn't fitted correctly? How do, yes, I mean, you can self-calibrate and say, well, you can't drive the car. Well, you still got to come back to us. And so this idea of calibration or recalibration and replacement, for me, is one service. And so I don't see that. We don't see that. And that's not because we're trying to bury our head in the sand. It's genuinely the job that we do is a physical job which takes skill. And I don't know, unless someone's going to come up with a robot who can. Anyway, I'll be dead by then if they come up with that. But it's not going to happen. No.
And then another one is on the profitability per region. Are there huge gaps in profitability per region? Because I'm a bit surprised by the profitability of Carry Group, which is much smaller company versus you. The profitability is quite similar, I would say.
So sorry, you're surprised by the...
But the profitability of Carry Group versus Belron is quite similar.
Okay. I don't know which metric you're looking at. What, EBITDA margin?
Yeah, EBITDA.
Yes. So you're saying, do we have different... of course we do. We have differences right across the world. And it's not necessarily a regional thing. It's almost a country thing. It depends on a whole lot of factors as to how profitable a particular country can be, because it's about what's going on in that particular market.
But what do you believe is the main reason why the profitability of Carry Group is quite similar to the one of Belron, although in terms of size?
Because from my knowledge, but I don't know. I think that a vast majority of their profit comes from one country. So it's not comparable at all.
All right. And then maybe the very final question from my end. So there is potentially a new group of sales that can come up. I don't remember exactly the name, but it's the kind of stuff that is shown on the windows.
The heads-up display.
Yes, that's the one.
HUD.
Yeah. What is the kind of potential you see from that market? Is that something that could become quite similar to ADAS over time?
Well, for me, it's part of ADAS, but I think what it'll mean, it's just going to be more stuff for us to do, because this is stuff that is actually, projected onto the windscreen and going to provide you with all of your information. So if that's not working, it means there's something wrong with the windscreen, which could mean, I don't know, that you don't even have to break the windscreen. If the heads-up display stops working, what are you going to do? You might have to replace the windscreen because something's gone wrong with the windscreen other than a breakage. Maybe. It's too early to tell. All I can say is that this is definitely, because we know that, this is in the design of will be in the design of all new cars. And all I think I'm saying is we see it as an opportunity rather than anything else. I can't quantify it in any way, though.
Thank you.
One or two last questions, and then we should wrap it up.
I thought I was going to get an easy time here today.
Hello.
Yes, yeah. And heads-up displays are expensive. Quite right, Humphrey. The value of the windscreen goes up. So that's a great... Now it's back to the inflation question.
Okay. I have one question, Gary.
Yes.
Ludo. First, congratulations with your multi-generation family company. I think that deserves really, some respect. Coming back to ADAS, if you look to the slides, it represents 15% of your volume, and your current penetration is around a quarter, 24% to be exactly. How do you address the maturity or the start of that market? Because repair and replacement is pretty mature, growing at 4% per year. You indicated that you expect 2% growth on ADAS. Is that not an underestimation versus the total addressable market? Because there is 8 million jobs out. Today you do 2 million. Is that market not significant bigger in the next 5 to 10 years? So can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I'm not sure that we said 2% on.
We weren't confusing where we transformation. The 2% comment was related to the transformation program, not to recalibration.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, so recalibration is growing.
So overall, we are obviously talking about growing the margins quite a lot more than 2% over the next 5 years. Part of that 2% of it we think will be from the transformation program, which is a combination, by the way, of both revenue and cost opportunities. And then recalibration will be quite a significant part of that growth, as will VAPs growing. So all of those drivers of growth that I showed earlier is what builds up to the overall margin target that we've set out there. And yes, we think recalibration will, inevitably grow year by year. We've seen it this year again, and will eventually get to 100%. And we think we're in the box seat to take that market.
Could you give them maybe an indicative figure of what you expect to grow? And then last point is your penetration is a quarter. Do you have a kind of internal improvement plan to increase that penetration? Because that could drive really value.
So you mean the 24%?
Yes.
I'm afraid that's got nothing to do with us. I wish it did. So the 24% is essentially how many vehicles right now are driving around with ADAS windscreens. So that's purely a function of the car park. So each year, because now every single car in Europe has ADAS. So that's going to go. So in 2015, we did 15,000 recalibrations. 15,000. Last year, we did nearly 2 million. Yeah. So this is going but it's got nothing to do with us, I'm afraid. I wish I could take credit for that. All I can take credit for is grabbing the opportunity, seeing it early, training our people, investing in the equipment. That's what we did really well. We showed you some lines. I mean, you can, the OEMs are the best people to ask. You can ask Denis later. He'll be able to. But it's going it's a straight line. It's yeah. There was one more, I think.
Yeah, from the online audience.
Oh, we got. Go
ahead.
Very popular.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry for this late one. I'm just trying to understand if there is any legal framework which is changing around ADAS and recalibration. I mean, I'm just trying to understand, recalibration is now becoming compulsory, and yes. I don't understand if it's coming from country laws or is indicative from insurance companies. At the moment, you are one of the players with which insurance companies are operating with. Yes. They operate with all the rest.
Yes.
And would it be the fact that you are investing in recalibration and you can guarantee objectively
Correct.
that the car is recalibrated, is it a driver for you to gain market share against those who can't?
Definitely.
Can you explain?
Yeah. So, you saw on the Australian ad, we actually give us, if you need it, a certificate. Because it's all now on software, we can provide to regulators, because if there's an accident and it turns out that the windscreen was replaced but not recalibrated, the insurance company's got a big issue, and we would have a big issue if we were the people who did that. So when you say regulatory, absolutely, there's whether it's actual law in a country.
Going back to the French market, the French market in the future will not be seeing 100% replacement of the car park every year.
No.
Because that needs to be recalibrated. Correct. So they will all come to you or equivalent to you.
Yes, I hope so.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. Thank you very much.
We do show it in one of the charts. So the European Commission legislation says that by mid-22, cars must meet a minimum ADAS standard. So it varies by market, but there is very clear legislative requirements.
And we do audits all the time in our business of this. I mean, this is about safety, and so we take this really, really seriously, and so we have to recalibrate properly. Stephanie.
Yeah, I had a question online. If you could help elaborate on the supply chain and labor pressures that you are seeing currently.
I can elaborate, but I think we're seeing what every other business is seeing everywhere in the world. So on labor pressures, people talk about the great resignation. Yes, we're seeing that. We're seeing our people being choosing to go be an Amazon driver, for example, instead of staying with us. So we haven't seen a big increase in staff turnover, but it's a competitive labor market out there. And what does competitive labor market mean? It means rates go up. So that's just part of what we're doing. On the supply chain, yeah, we had our challenges, particularly last year and particularly in North America, whether that was driven by the chip shortage, whether it was driven by the container issues. Containers, we ship all of our glass around. That's starting to get a little bit better, but there's still a lot of challenges around the supply chain. Again, our scale, our size, our relationships with our suppliers is a huge advantage at times like this. And we're trying to optimize as best we can. But I'm afraid I haven't got anything unique to say. I mean, you all deal with other businesses. We haven't escaped what the rest of the world is going through at the moment.
I'm going to have to be very rude.